We got the real estate view with our. This is with Rosie O'Donnell over here. I'm just joking. No, but we want to have this conversation, this real estate conversation. We're all hanging out here in my office. So hey, you know what? Why not go live to our viewers and just have a quick conversation before we took down some subjects, right? Of what I guess what was on our mind or what people would be, you know, what would be on
what
people's
they want to
mind.
know, what the people want to know.
Yes.
So the first one is raising capital, and so, and I guess this is just like a little dialogue, but I mean I love raising capital. I mean the way to enter real estate for me in the path of least resistance is using other people's money, OPM. So when you heard about these concepts of like how you can get into real estate using other people's money, what came to your mind before you entered this world?
Yeah, I mean, like, we would think other people's money is the bank, but that's not what we're referring to, right? Like, you can go to the bank for financing, but there's a whole other world of other investors, other silent partners that want to get involved, and you can leverage their funds, their qualifying, and purchase a building together, right? You can get creative with it. There's so many different strategies we can talk about, but yeah, you're limiting yourself if you're only using your own money, right?
Yeah. Well, people think like, okay, yeah, I understand that I can use the bank's money, but like what we're talking about here is actually that down payment money, closing costs, reserves. You can actually raise those funds from other people. What about you? Did you ever think that you'd be in that position where you would be transacting on real estate using other people's money?
Yeah, I always thought of OPM as loans. That's how I always thought about it. I'm like, okay, well, yeah, other people's money, I gotta go borrow it from somebody. I didn't think it could be structured in a way where it can be beneficial to the person borrowing it, them keeping it, and then also purchasing something else. So that was that's how I always thought about it.
When I first heard about it, I actually thought it might be easy. Like people were talking about, I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Like simple business transaction. You know, money for property, money for equity, whatever it is. I thought it might actually be a little easier than it ended up being. So I'm like, yeah, you just tell them this is a great deal, you know, but it's about building relationships with people, with investors and stuff like that. Like no one's going to give you money if you don't have their trust. So it's a bit of a trust game.
Well, people talk about OPM, but nobody talks about LOPM, losing other people's money.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly. Exactly.
And that can happen if you don't know what you're doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, that's good. So that's raising capital. I mean, subject matter. I think everybody should at least, if this is the first time someone's hearing it from us, great. If you've heard it at some point, maybe look into it. But do your research and make sure you know what you're doing. Tenant Nightmares.
Yeah, there's I can think of so many. Like there's just every day seems like there's something going on. But I had one actually where I had apartment building, and the tenant above was intentionally flooding her unit, intentionally.
Yeah.
And so she was clogging up everything, and I got the call actually, and the unit below was saying there's water coming down. So we sent someone there, and we're knocking on the door of the unit above, and no one's answering. So we had to do emergency enter, right? Went inside, she's sleeping, okay, but everything's clogged. The sink is clogged, the bathtub is clogged, everything's clogged. There's like all her kitchen utensils are all over the floor, and she's sleeping there, and it was just crazy. I mean, I don't know what happened to her, but she had some kind of episode. She tried flooding her unit.
Wow.
And we had to call the police, and it's just like, that's just one issue I've dealt with recently. It's fresh in my mind, but like someone intentionally damaging your property, right? It's pretty bad.
What's you're in your eightplex? What's the strangest thing you've seen so far?
Well, there's a couple. I'll share. When we first bought it, there was a lady on the second floor who has like four cats. One of them, I think it's her daughters who comes in all the time. she's a nice enough lady, but she's she's got cats all over the place. It's kind of dirty and stuff like that. And then we met the lady who lives under her, who happens to be the one who keeps everything, knows everything about everybody. She's like, we have a bit of a problem with the lady upstairs. She likes to bathe her cats in her sink, and then she also likes to dispose of the kitty litter in her tub. And then it's just that comes all the way down, and she's like, my kitchen stinks like cat litter all day. I'm like, that's terrible. So we've had to clean that a couple times, and then this other gentleman, for some reason, he always loses his key. He's no longer a tenant. He just moved out about a month ago. But even the old landlord told me about this. He lost his keys in the past, and he muscled his way into his room, into his door, and he broke the frame twice. So we didn't fix it because we figured he's just gonna do it again. It wasn't like destroyed. It was just like cracked. He can still lock it. And before he left, another tenant reported that somebody tried to break into his house, and nothing was stolen. But we just figured they're like next door. Maybe he came and didn't realize which room he was in, broke in and realized it wasn't his house, and then went back to his house. And so those are just two recent stories, and that's just in an Aniplex.
Yeah.
Any crazy ones there?
Well, I was doing property management for like 300 units, so I mean, there's lots of stories, but I don't even know what it.
But you guys have a proper vetting process.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you still can like someone.
You inherit so many, right?
Not only do you inherit, but I mean, people come in all different.
That's true. Yeah.
Varieties, and so and some of them like in the process you can't discriminate. And so any mental health or anything like that, that's a very touchy subject. So and some of those tenants can be difficult tenants, and some of them are not. But anyway, nightmare tenants. I mean, I've gone into apartments where the apartment's so dirty that like the carpet is pretty much dirt, and it's just like
the hoarders
beyond trash. So I mean, those are sort of, they come every now and then. They happen,
I had a crazy one. I've been in this game 22 plus years, and we follow a proper vetting process, and we never deviate from that process except for one time.
Of course.
Right? And so I was in a rush, and I'll take full responsibility. I was in a rush, and one of my businesses, the manager at that business said to me, we got this guy, he's good, he gets a pension, he's looking for an apartment, there's one like available, like he's asking if he can have it. I'm like, well, who is this guy? He's like, no, don't worry, I know him, he's good, he's solid guy, and he pays his, he always, in the business that we had, he had come in and bought certain products and things like that. So we're like, okay, fine. So we give him the apartment. So about a week later, I get a call from the property manager in the of the building, and she says, "Do you know this guy is bringing prostitutes into the unit?" And I said, "Prostitutes? What do you mean prostitutes?" And she's like, "Yeah, he's bringing prostitutes." I'm like, well, he was an old guy. He was like 64 or something.
Wow.
So I'm like, he's really active or something. You know what I mean? Like, she's like, no, you don't understand. Prostitutes. I'm like, what? What do you mean? He's like, how can you afford that? He's like, no, you don't understand. Prostitutes are living in the unit, and the unit is now a brothel. So I'm like, what the hell is happening? So of course we go into action, right? We go into action. We get him to sign the N11. He signs it. Signs the N11, no problem. He'll be out in a month. The month comes. Mistake number 2. We did not initiate the motion the day after the N11 was due. We waited we waited 2 days afterwards because he was like he had some stalling tactics that were like really professional, and he gave us the impression that he was moving out. But on that day number 2, he actually had gone in to the landlord-tenant board and started a new motion that he signed that N11 under duress, and that he was manipulated to do it, and he was bullied into doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So now there's another motion that he's put in place that you cannot evict on that N11.
Yeah.
And so we hit him with the non-payment of rent, because now he's not paying rent. But now we're going into month number 2.
Yeah.
We hit him with the non-payment of rent, and then obviously you gotta wait. You serve your N4, then the L1. You gotta wait like another month, right? We get our trial. Trial is in 2 months, right? So now it's like count, like it's he's stalled, like, and he's
not paying rent.
Yeah, he's not paying rent. But in the meantime, he's operating a business off of this unit, and like, okay.
Hey, well,
It really shouldn't matter what the prostitutes look like, but they didn't look like prostitutes. They were like drug addicts, to be honest with you. They were like drug addicts, and now the place, all the neighbors are upset. Every day there's complaints. Police is there every day. We called police. You think about like when you operate in the city and you walk around and you think about, oh, I don't want to break the law.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You think like, oh, if I break the law, I'm gonna go to jail.
Mm-hmm.
No one's arresting these people. You know what I mean? We're like, this is what's happening. And they're like, yeah, we know. Okay, but like, what are you gonna do about it? Well, we can't really do anything about it. What? You know what I mean? It's so crazy. And so this went on. Then we get to the hearing.
Yeah.
Now we're in the hearing, right? And of course, he didn't pay his rent. He hasn't paid his rent. Logical, he's gonna be gone, right?
Yeah.
He stands up at the hearing and says, I can't read.
Oh my God.
They got us! The judge says, okay, so now we have to accommodate this person,
Oh my God.
right? And so now they extend it for another, like they do another hearing, but now they make sure that that someone is there available to read to him all the documents, and then that's another 2 months.
This guy's a pro.
This guy was complete pro, and even after all that, I still ended up paying him to get out.
Yeah.
But I think that was my first,
That's
my
pretty
worst,
bad.
my worst experience in the 22 plus years, and the only time that I've ever deviated from the formula, from the vetting.
Mm-hmm.
And my I guess my recommendation, my piece of advice, if you want to take it for whatever you want to take it for, never deviate.
Yeah.
You have a system. It doesn't matter like how they get there, because you know what? You're gonna get punched in the face.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my story.
Yeah,
Good one.
clear.
Off-market deals.
Yes.
So who's getting them all? Not me.
We love them. We love off-market. What you talk to a lot of people, they're like, geez, every time I look at a property, there's like 25 offers.
Yeah.
Every time I try to get on a deal, there's already somebody else doing a deal. The problem is everybody's going to the same watering hole.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And if everybody's going to the same
This
place,
one right here.
Realtor.ca, which there is opportunities there,
Yeah.
right? There is
Oh, yeah.
opportunities, but you got to be patient. You got to, you got to do your due diligence. You got to do everything right. But when it comes to off-market deals, your last deal was an off-market deal.
Yeah.
How did you get there?
So I went on. I didn't know where else to go. I mean, a lot of people said go to Kijiji. A lot of people said go to Realtor.ca for Kijiji for the off-market ones. I did go to Kijiji, and I saw a bunch. I even saw Stephen LeConte as one of his posts saying, "I want off-market deals."
Yeah.
But I couldn't find any off-market deals other than maybe a single or a duplex here and there. So I gave up on that, and I decided to go on Facebook. And on Facebook there were some groups, some real estate groups, and I was just asking around if anybody's selling their property, and one particular person, I got a couple selling duplexes. I told one guy, I'm like, no, I'm looking for something bigger, and he's like, well, I have an eightplex that I'm thinking of selling, and that's how the ball started going. So that's how I found that particular one. And now the other off markets that I'm focusing on are through the help with a realtor, through their pocket deals.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice.
Yes. Yeah, there's a bunch of strategies that I try to do like regularly, but my last deal was actually driving for dollars and then taking down addresses for all these buildings, getting the address from the city, the mailing address, and then contacting the owner or sending them mail or calling them or whatever you have to do. But the last one, an agent, I guess the seller got the message and passed along to his agent, and that's how he initiated it. And then I just went with that agent as the listing agent. But yeah, it was exclusive, and that's pretty much how I did it. Another way that I've gotten leads is like through Facebook rental ads. Like you see some beat up properties that people are listing as rent.
They're struggling.
You just message them.
Yeah,
and then,
they're struggling.
Yeah, like listen, are you interested or whatever, right? Start that conversation. Because there's a small circle of people who actually own these larger buildings we're going after. Yeah. So you can create a relationship with sellers. They might know somebody else or might know an agent, and like a bunch of pocket listings sent your way that way, right? Just communicating.
Yeah, smart.
What about you?
Me?
Off market?
Spend a lot of time talking to or building relationships with the agents I work with in my markets. So the one apartment building that I got, they before it even got to market, she put me in contact with the seller.
Nice.
And then we were able to, before anyone else saw it, I was able to pick it up and close on it. So,
yeah,
like, if you can intercept it before it hits the market, then I mean, they know a lot of these, property owners in the towns and stuff like that, because they probably worked with them in the past or have some sort of business relationship with them. So, it's a good way to break into a market that you're not familiar with.
My strategy, and I like, obviously I want to try everything, but I like having a property management company, because what happens is we're managing the property, and at some point that owner is going to want to sell, and so who better to buy that property than the property manager that's already been managing the property.
Exactly.
We bought 3 buildings from clients that we were managing their properties last year.
Wow.
And so, having a property management company actually gets you in, opens doors for you, even to have a conversation with sellers or potential sellers. I mean, your sellers don't even know they're sellers yet. Okay, so mortgage assumptions. You wanted to know that.
Yeah. So one of the properties I'm looking at, they just refinanced last year, and they have good rates. It's like one mortgage is a 1.87, the other one's a 2.6, and they 18 year amortization, 5-year term, and talk to the owner. He's interested in doing an assumption. So the question is like, okay, how do you approach that, and what do I need to qualify for that?
Yeah, so the answer is you do need to qualify. Also, it could be a lot easier of a transaction, because it's easier to get a mortgage that already exists than to try to apply for a whole new mortgage. The toughest part about commercial mortgages is the exit out of those commercial mortgages, because the way a commercial mortgage is set up, the penalty is extremely high, and whoever's selling that deal would have to pay those penalties, and usually it's all of the interest that the mortgage company would have made, and so that leaves the seller in a position where they can't really negotiate after, paying capital gains tax, realtor fees, mortgage penalties. I mean, the profit is going to be very minimal. So if you can be in the situation where you can offer an opportunity to assume the mortgage, and that way the seller gets to avoid that capital gains tax, then there's an opportunity for you to maybe reduce the price. So you guys can, like, let's say, like, I have a mortgage right now that to break that mortgage is $184,000.
Wow.
Right? So if someone came and assumed it, you know what, instead of losing 184, like, okay, I'll take another 70 off the purchase price.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm gonna be happy as a seller. I'll be extremely happy if someone wants to assume my mortgage. A lot of people don't even think about it. They just think it's just some sellers don't even know what their penalty is gonna be because they think it's like selling their house or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, but they're high penalties. Here's the problem. The mortgage, whenever they got that mortgage, it was maybe 5 years ago, and so the loan to value is like out of whack. Most likely they paid it down, and when you're assuming it, it will be more than 80-20, 70-30 loan to value. Here's the added benefit. The assumption with the VTB, right? So now there's an extra added incentive for that seller to work with you because you're helping him avoid capital gains, deferred capital gains, and you're also taking that mortgage off his hands that he would have to have major penalties. And so if you actually do a proper proposal, the seller makes more money by giving you a VTB and allowing you to assume the mortgage than if they sold it at full pop.
Yeah,
They
makes sense.
break it all down for them, like what they're gonna save versus the penalty, and then the VTB and the interest on that VTB.
Well, what usually happens is someone sees a deal, they'll say they're like, okay, I'm gonna I want a VTB.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, well, no. Why would I do that? You know what I mean? And so it's the presentation.
Yeah.
If you can show someone in a presentation, do a proposal. This is what I can do for you, because you know that there's a high penalty there, so you can actually get ahead.
Yeah, for sure.
Anything on the assumption?
No, not that I can think
What
of.
about you?
I haven't done one, so.
I've countered back and forth. The seller wanted to do an assumption, but the rate was about like 5.6%, and it didn't make sense. And the loan to value.
How long was it for?
It was long term.
Yeah.
And the LTV was, because we refinanced it too, the LTV was way off, and it would be impossible for me to get that additional financing or do anything with it or cash flow. So it didn't go
That's some
through
of some of the cons to.
But that sounds pretty good, like 1.8%. Like, solid.
Yeah, you're okay. It's falling asleep.
Yeah,
You guys drove in here. How long did you drive?
3.5, 4 hours.
Yeah.
6 hours.
6 hours. He turned a 4-hour trip into 6 hours.
Driving from Brampton now, just
by the way, we have this is live. I can see from here. There's already a lot of people watching.
Nice.
Introduce yourselves.
Ed Hervey is recent graduate from the Wealth Genius mentorship program, and I'm here in Ottawa for a coaching seminar this weekend.
Woo!
Zishan Chaudhary, same thing, real estate investor, same program as these guys here, and just spending time with Alfonso here today.
Hanging out.
Matt Goddard, I'm in Ottawa, but always in Ottawa, I guess, kind of, and was students along with these guys, and that's how I know Alfonso.
Woo! Where do you invest?
I'm currently investing in Northern Ontario, and I'm branching out into Manitoba as well.
I'm in Windsor right now and looking into the States as well.
Ottawa Valley, Cape Breton Island, and northwestern New Brunswick.
Okay, so the reason I asked that question is because the people watching right now, they may be thinking about investing, but they're thinking very local. And so, like, what's the mindset that that you have to be at to be able to invest in a property that you can't touch every day?
The main mindset is just building the team on the ground first. If you have a solid team on the ground, then you can buy anywhere you want. It doesn't have to be local.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Basically,
Without my team, I wouldn't be able to.
Team.
Yeah.
Exactly. You don't wanna build another job, right? So the reason it's actually better sometimes you're buying it further away and it doesn't no
Numbers
reason
work.
to go there
Yeah.
and try to manage it yourself. At least it's more hands off, right?
How did you choose your market?
My initial one, the first one was Sault Ste. Marie, and I was looking at a bunch of different markets, but as soon as this one came on availability, the off market, I found a realtor. That realtor introduced me to property management. That realtor also introduced me to a contractor. The realtor introduced me to a mortgage agent, and then all of a sudden I had a team. I'm like, okay, well let's get this going.
No, I love that.
Yeah, I mean, 'cause
it was like very organic.
very organic. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I was looking in Timmins. I was looking in Sudbury. I found a property manager here, a realtor over there. But for some reason, it's the same. Everything just clicked in together and it's
Yeah.
meant to be.
If you find one, I think if you find one good agent, he could be your quarterback.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh, this is the plumber. This is the da 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 da.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's good. Why did you choose your market?
I chose it strictly due to affordability. It was like whatever down payment I had at the time, and first house I bought was for $81,000. I needed $15,000 down. The numbers made sense to me. 1% rule, more than 1% rule, and yeah, strictly on the numbers.
Nice. What about you?
Uh,
you East Coast.
Yeah, sort of just chose me, to be honest. I was helping a family member find a rental, couldn't find a rental, so we bought a place. And then, so we stayed in that market, and then the place that we sleep on the drive over, we decided to invest in that market because it seems to be, they both seem to be really great markets, so.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I want to talk about mistakes, and I'm gonna pull the camera real close, so they can hear. Maybe there's some questions, but mistakes, biggest mistakes.
Yeah, we all have mistakes, huh?
Oh, yeah.
What about you, my man?
Mushroom house, is what we call it. Flip, too large, I guess not enough due diligence on structure of it. Structure was really bad. And I wasn't able to devote enough time to the project. And if you can't devote enough time, then you can't complete it properly. So, fell apart.
And how did you recover, like mentally?
You know, I decided to look at it as a learning experience. So, yeah, I'm taking a big, loss, let's say. But really, I'm taking a big lesson.
Yeah,
You know?
nice. The learning opportunity out of it. What about you, Z?
Mine have all been surrounding plumbing, like
Plumbing.
finishing,
Always plumbing.
finishing a basement without putting in a backflow valve or sump pump, or not doing a sewer line inspection and noticing like how much galvanized you actually have and things falling apart. So I've had like sewer backups and going through the insurance and all that. So I learned my lesson, like make sure you take those precautions with plumbing. You don't want to mess around with that because that could set you back like a lot of money. A lot of money.
What about you, Ed?
Biggest mistake was starting a duplex conversion right before winter, because and I mean, I don't want to say it's entirely my fault, but what happened is that we struck ground on December 4th or 5th last year, and it's starting to get cold, so the floor was starting to freeze over and stuff. But the digger, his brother got COVID, and so the digger decided to go on quarantine, and then the snow hit. Then 8 months later, my duplex is done because the floor froze.
And then you're carrying this.
I was carrying 8 months, two mortgages.
Two mortgages. Yeah.
It wasn't easy, man.
Yeah, but you made it.
I'm
You-
still not.
Made it up
You know
the
what?
side.
Those are all like war wounds. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and if you don't have them, you haven't tried, right? You haven't pushed yourself, because it's that pushing that, you know what? Sometimes it works out, and sometimes it doesn't. But when it works out really well.
Mhm.
And then when it doesn't, it doesn't, and that's
And
just
it gives you a new baseline.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, now I know how not to do a project of that size.
Mhm.
Perfect. The next time I come up to one, I'll know how not to do it.
yeah, exactly.
And now we can tackle it and do it the right way.
That's the only way you know. All right, guys. Last words for our friends. What's your last words? What do you got to say?
I don't know. Put me on the spot. Step outside your comfort zone.
Step outside
Yeah.
your comfort zone.
Absolutely.
When-
you're not
if you're-
going to go anywhere if you're comfortable.
If you're comfortable, it's like the kiss of death.
Absolutely.
All right, my man. Z, last words. Last words.
create some content. I was guilty of not doing that for years, but people got to know who you are. So get your name out there, start documenting your journey.
All right.
Yes, sir.
What about you, sir?
Exactly. Just make yourself known as much as possible. Take advantage of all the of your network and get to know more people who are interested in doing what you're doing.
All right, guys. So that was the Real Estate View. Alfonso loves you, and we'll see you